Hey everyone, and welcome back to the New Agenda. My name is Candace New, and I'm your host. I'm so excited for you guys to join me today, and I'm really excited to talk about a really cool upcoming project that you guys get to hear a little bit more about today. Speaking of upcoming projects and those sorts of things, you know what I find is that around this time of year, it's spring again, I get kind of this bug to clean. Yes, I don't know why that is, but I guess I'm one of those people that does maybe angry clean or like anxiety clean, not really angry clean, but I do find that I have to have everything in order before I begin something new. So we're beginning today a new process, I guess, or something like that. We're beginning today round 8 of Broadway Bound Live, which is a brand new original musical, and so we're starting rehearsals for that today, and it's a really big undertaking. So I found myself, as we're gearing up for that, as we're gearing up for season 6 of this show, as we're gearing up for all of the things that will happen in the months to come that we're really excited about, I just found the need to pause and reset. So one of the ways that I do that is I do find myself deep cleaning all the things, right? So I'm going through my bedroom and taking out everything and, cleaning out everything in my entire house and just kind of deep cleaning and getting rid of the things that no longer suit me and figuring out what maybe is needed to be able to move forward. So I did that obviously in a very physical way because I literally spent the weekend cleaning my house. I don't know if anybody else did that too. But in the same way, I'm doing it with habits that no longer suit me or no longer get me to where I'm trying to get to. And, maybe relationships that need a refresh or a reset, whether that means moving away from relationships that have maybe not been so healthy. Maybe it means being open to new things that maybe seemed scary before. So anyway, before we go down that path, what are you getting ready for and how do you prepare? I'm really excited to hear about how other people reset and prepare for big things to come. Also, speaking of big things, I guess I will make this announcement now. I am really excited about what's coming up for the end of this season and coming into next season. Season 6 is going to include some really exciting things, and we'll get to that later. But I want to invite you, all of you viewers out there in the world, especially those of you local to the Albuquerque area, to join us for the season 5 finale. That will be taped on May the 13th at 11 a.m. Doors will open at 10:30. And we will have a live studio audience because we will be bringing out the cast of Hamilton. I'm so excited. So if you guys know anything about Broadway musicals, Hamilton is definitely one of those ones that you gotta go see. They're coming here to Albuquerque and we have them coming in studio. So you'll have the opportunity to sit in the live studio audience, to participate in a little bit of a Q&A. So we will take questions from the audience to be able to ask our actors up on the set, and of course you'll get to meet them, and if you bring any stuff they'll probably sign it. So come hang out with us May 13th right here at 11 a.m. All right, enough about that. So let's get started with our guests for today's show. I'm going to bring back a friend of mine who you guys got to meet a couple of months ago. Goodness, almost a year ago now, as a matter of fact, as we talk about it. And we'll see who else we've got in the audience today. So coming out to join me today is a young, incredibly talented filmmaker, Mr. John Freelykirk. Hello, John. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy to have you on my set. You can sit right there.
Thank you.
You can move those pillows, so that they're.
Put one behind.
You guys are like pregnant ladies. I'm not really sure how
That's
it always.
important.
I know. I see that. I see that. It's always the men. I want you to know that. And I'm not really big into gender stuff, right? But I always notice that the men who come on my show always do weird things with the pillows. Like everybody else, the females that come on my show, I'm like, oh, you can move those pillows, and they just neatly stack them because they understand that these are decorative things and not like. Yes, I feel like I'm in season 1 again. Did you know the entire season 1? I don't know if my crew put them up to it or if it was just some weird bug in the air, but literally. The entire season 1, every episode, the people on my show would mess with the pillows. They would be upside down. They would pillow fight. I don't even know what they would. It was just the most random thing. And like I said, I don't know. Maybe my crew did. I'm not sure. But either way. So John, I had you on my show a couple of months ago. several months ago, as a matter of fact.
Almost a year.
Yeah, it's been almost a year. Because you were out for the 48. We're really excited.
Ron last time.
Yeah, I love Ron.
fun.
He's a great guy.
Definitely.
Are you going to participate this year?
Yes, we already signed up, and I think it kicks off in about a month. So.
Yeah, and actually, guys, if you guys are out there and local to the Albuquerque area, the Albuquerque 48-Hour Film Project is already open for early bird registrations. It's a great time to get your registration put in because honestly, like, it's cheaper, bro. So
and it
do
fills
it.
Up.
It does fill up. I don't know if they like kick out people. I don't think there's like a limit.
I don't know if there's a limit per se. For specific like 48s, I don't know if it's a subgenre one they do, but it's better to get in earlier than later.
Speaking of subgenres, I don't know if you heard or not, but Ron did tell me, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it or not, but we're going to anyways, there's going to be a horror 48 this year. I'm excited about that. I know, like, I bet you guys out there in the world are excited about it too. I know of a couple of filmmakers that are going to be super ecstatic about that. So I definitely have, I don't generally participate in the 48 anymore, you know, but I think we might have to do a horror one for sure. So yeah. All right. So what have you been up to since the last time I saw you?
Quite a bit. So I'm still in school. I'm doing film right now in school, which has been really cool, really eye-opening. I've worked on quite a few personal projects, and I've also been helping out on some local ones with some friends and whatnot. Just really trying to stay busy, kind of build a background, build a resume essentially, and then also just taking personal time, just, you know, kind of take breaks, because it's good to take breaks, because if you overwork yourself, you can become like overwhelmed very easily. And like you said, it's good to reset. It's good to unwind and just take it slow. So
yeah, I feel bad sometimes when I do that because it's like I basically ignore everybody, and I'm just like, yeah, I have so many people like messaging me and reaching out over the weekend, and I was just ignoring everyone because I needed that time.
You need it, yeah. It's important. Self-recovery. You know.
So you said you worked on a couple of projects. Can you tell me anything about those projects?
Yeah, I did another 48-hour film project out of Oklahoma.
Okay,
so that one was rough because I actually drove out to Oklahoma for the kickoff, and then while I was driving back, I had like a Zoom call going, and I basically had my writing team working on it. So we did a horror one. It was the Horror 48, but out in Oklahoma. So that was a lot of fun. I think we took home 3 awards on that.
That's excellent.
Really cool. We got an abduction horror, so that was...
Abduction horror. What does that mean?
So when I heard...
That was the genre?
That was our subgenre. Yeah.
Oh, okay, because
so
it's the horror. Okay.
Yeah.
I've not done a horror one yet.
So instead of like the traditional 48 where they have like action, adventure, and so forth, it's everyone's horror, but they have subgenres of horror. So slasher, abduction, fill in the blank. There's a bunch of them. So we got abduction. Naturally, I was like, oh, we should do something alien related because that sounded fun. But my writing team was like, no, let's make it grounded. Let's make like a abduction, like a killer,
kidnapping,
like a kidnapping / a killer. And so we came up with this really, really interesting idea. We had Benjamin A. Fuller and Yvonne Streaker in it, and it was just, and Jessica Ubiera. She did a fantastic job in that. And it was just this really creepy, claustrophobic film about escaping a killer, and it was a lot of fun to do. We actually, filming it was kind of interesting because we had a scene where Yvonne, you know, he's restrained, he's got like ropes tied to him, we put a bunch of blood on him, and we had him run outside, and so we have the camera going, and a couple people are walking down the street, and they just see Yvonne booking it down the street, covered in fake blood, ropes, and so we were driving over and like, hey guys, we're filming something, this is fake, and then, you know, of course, I'm sure some of them are like, oh, of course that's what you say, but we didn't get the cops called on us or anything, which was nice, and yeah, it was a long shoot. It was pretty much, I want to say we were shooting for about 18 hours, but it came out really good, and we're really proud of it, and yeah, I won a couple awards, and it was really cool to see Albuquerque represent in a different city, because I'd never done a remote like that. Yeah. So it was interesting. So it was a lot of fun to do that.
So you guys brought Albuquerque people out to go compete in the
Actually, no. Oklahoma. So I emailed the producer out there and I said, hey, we want to film it here in Albuquerque, but I will come to the kickoff event.
You filmed it in Albuquerque?
We filmed it in Albuquerque
and
uploaded it.
Are you allowed to do that?
Apparently so.
Okay.
So, but yeah, the rule was as long as somebody was there for the in-person kickoff event.
I feel like all of a sudden I want to participate in all the 48s around the nation.
It sounds like it'd be like make a vacation out of it. Go to a new city.
Make a TV show. Make a reality show about it. Oh my God.
There you go. $1 million idea.
You know, I do love reality shows.
That would be fun. That'd be a lot of fun actually. But yeah, it was really interesting. It was definitely the most interesting 48. It was the third one I've done. So definitely open to do it again because that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was trying to put the pieces together. I was like,
minus the driving part. Like it was pretty much straight out there and then straight back. So I was dead. It was like 18 hours of driving. So but we made it work, and it was a lot of fun. So.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just had this thought while you were talking about the crazy, deciding to kidnap and kill,
Normal thoughts.
Well, I mean, I just always wonder, like, how you get inspiration for such things. So many people pull from their personal lives, and I couldn't help but think, have you ever seen You?
I have seen You. I love that show. So.
You kind of,
Am I-
have you heard this? You kind of maybe look a little bit like Joe.
Okay. I've never heard that, but I mean,
You've never heard that?
I don't know if I take that as a compliment or not.
I don't know either. I will
Good-looking guy.
say so.
Cool
So
personality, but
on a real note, I think I only thought that because so I'm back on the dating apps. Yeah, okay, I know you guys want to know about that. But and I definitely met up with this guy over the weekend.
Mhm.
And I didn't think it until he said it, but like he was talking about working at like a coffee shop and then a bookstore, and he like literally stopped and like looked funny at me. He said he had some weird commentary about the fact that like ever since he started working at a coffee shop, he doesn't work there now, but like that people had like confused him with Joe from You, and I was just like, maybe this isn't what we
I
like,
could see that.
This is maybe not the greatest conversation for like first date
First date,
adventure. Yeah, I just
It's
felt
a little red flaggish, but
I was all
at least he's aware of it.
right,
Yeah,
and then he
at
was
least
like,
you
"Can I
didn't
walk
bring
you
it up,
to your car?" And I was like, "No, definitely good to go. Actually, my kid's picking me up. My friend from the Duke City Gladiators. Yeah, he's picking me up. I gotta go. Bye. Like
Dodge a bullet, potentially.
no, he's a really nice guy
Oh,
though.
good.
So hopefully it's not like watching this like, oh my God. But I had a good time. So anyway, how did you get your inspiration for this,
So actually,
this dark thing that you would never do ever?
Yeah,
You don't have like a cage in your basement with a girl in
no. Candice Marie, she's a writer I've worked with a few times,
That's my
and
name,
she's been the one who's kind of come up with these great ideas.
So she's the crazy
She's probably
one.
the one who has
Got
the skeletons in her closet.
Got
in
it.
the most respectful
Got it.
way I can say it. Like, but she, as soon as we sat down, I'm driving, I have the audio, like my phone's down, we're talking, and I'm like, okay, guys, we got abduction, and immediately she's like, oh, let's do like some guy gets abducted slasher movie. I'm like, okay,
I love
pitch
that.
it more, and then we started coming through with it, and it just, it all fell into place. But yeah, she's the one who comes up. She wrote Chameleon Effect. She was the lead writer on that, and she's also writing on a feature film that I'm working on, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, she's just talent, so much talent, and so much idea just comes flowing out of her all the time. So it's always exciting to work with her because you can literally give her any kind of cliff note and she'll turn it into something really interesting. So
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
think that's a super talent. So when was that? Was that in October?
that was November, I
Okay.
believe. Yeah.
Cool. So anything exciting since then?
Um,
Focus on school mostly?
mostly just trying to stay on top of school, get good grades because it's important.
It's important.
But other than that, I traveled.
And you've
a
been
bit.
writing?
I've been writing, yeah. I've actually started working on a novel. I don't know if I'm really
Okay.
going to go forward with that entirely or not because I really like filmmaking, but it's been
Hey,
fun working on it.
Your
and
novel could be turned into a screenplay.
Definitely, yeah.
A series.
Yeah, it's not like it's
feature,
wasted ideas or anything. So, and then I've wrote a couple of screenplays here and there. But yeah, just kind of, I feel like if you don't at least completely like keep up with, creative writing, it kind of, the time will just add up. It'll be like, oh, it's been a week since I wrote something. And
Yeah.
before you know it, it's been like 6 months and you're like sitting on nothing. So I just like to stay on top of that.
I think that's really awesome. That's
Yeah.
actually one of the things I was like, okay, I need to reset because I've been slacking on, I try to be intentional about making sure that I'm reading something that's helps me to grow a little bit every day, and then writing something that helps me to kind of hone my creative, and so I've been slacking on that because I've been so busy working. We did a lot. I mean, I think our team has been working every day since January 20th. I think we had our first day off like this past weekend where nobody worked the whole weekend. It was crazy.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you got some great stuff coming out, and
We're excited.
that scholarship opportunity is like phenomenal. So
I'm
very
really
excited
excited,
for
yeah.
whoever gets those.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he's referring to Broadway Bound Live. The grand finale is coming up May 20th and 21st. We'll be awarding 4 scholarships to a couple of they're not all local. There actually was a nationwide casting call. We had over 300 people submit, narrowed it down to 14, and now we're in the final round, which is 8 contestants who are competing for 4 scholarships to AMDA College of the Performing Arts in New York City. They'll be producing a full original musical. It's called You're a Catch, Why Are You Single?, which amazingly is about the woes of online dating. I'm wondering if the guy that I went out with over the weekend, / any of the other people that I'll be going out with this week, know that I'm really just doing research for a project. Just kidding, I'm just kidding, sort of. Research is important, though. So, you mentioned a couple of local people. One of them you mentioned is Benjamin A. Freeman. Nope, sorry. Fuller. I don't know how I got Freeman. Freelykirk, Fuller. It's not similar at all. Starts with an F.
Dime a dozen.
It's fine. So Benjamin A. Fuller. I actually might have him in my audience today.
That would be great.
Hey, Benjamin, you want to come on out and chat with us? Let's go ahead and bring him out. Hello, darling. Welcome to my set. I'm so excited to have you. Amazing. Isn't that a coincidence? Like I abducted you. Haha. So you participated in this as well, this shenanigan to overtake the Oklahoma 48-hour film festival. I love that you guys are doing that. You're like, Albuquerque is going to be present. That's right.
Yes.
Ooh.
We took it and won a few awards.
Whose idea was it to film in Albuquerque for a different film festival?
That was mine.
All right.
This is the crazy idea. Actually, I don't know if I should admit this, but I lived in Oklahoma last year, 2 years ago now, and they had.
I don't know if you should admit that. Like,
no, I'm getting.
Is that like a?
So they had a contest because you sign up for the 48, it can be like $200. They had a contest. It's like solve this riddle, get free admission, and I was like, okay, Google time, Google the answer.
Wow.
Yeah, not really honest, but hey, I won it. Obviously.
Nobody else did that? Nobody else?
No, I was one of the. I saw I got lucky. I turned on Facebook and it was like one of the first posts.
Oh,
like,
so you
they
were
just
like,
posted it. So I was like, okay, what's the answer? And then immediately, congratulations, you got free admission. I was like,
you're like, cool.
we're
I
gonna
lived
roll with
somewhere
it.
else.
A lot of integrity there. But I hit up the group chat. I said, hey, you guys want to go film out in Oklahoma? And they're like, yeah, that'd be cool. And then I started thinking about that. That could be hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
So then I reached out to the city producer and I said, hey, is there any way we could film it here, but as long as I'm there for kickoff in person? And she said, yeah. And so we did it, and we made it work. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Do they have like a big film festival group out there? Like how many people participated?
It was
How
a
many
full. I
groups?
think it was 15 teams.
Okay.
So Oklahoma is actually really growing in the film industry. It's quite surprising.
I think we had like 30 teams, 29 teams last year.
Yeah, it's growing here a lot more, but it's pretty active community out there. Unfortunately, though, like nothing against them, but Ron just working in the 48 and seeing how Ron runs it.
Right.
It's just any other city just fails in comparison. Like
Yeah.
in the most respectful, he's so organizing.
Was last year your first year in a film festival?
It was my second 48 hour, but it was my first one here in Albuquerque.
Okay, got it.
And I
yeah.
know it was Ron's first year, I believe.
Yeah.
And he just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah,
He's gonna go
impressive.
far with it.
Well, and I
so.
will say,
Very
like, the
impressive.
48-hour film project in Albuquerque has been a long-standing, well-done thing.
Mhm.
So, like, the producers before that did a great job, too. So when they handed it over to Ron, I think he had a really good foundation to build off of. And it's a project that's been, I don't know, has really amplified the talents and the skills of our local community and given an opportunity for people to try out film
Yeah.
in a really cool way for years. And so it's one of my favorite things. I hope that maybe, we'll be less crazy so we can actually participate, but it's unlikely.
That's great. And like what I was talking to him about earlier is the reason I like it so much, at least the core 48, is like you go in and you'll end up making a film that you never would have done.
Yeah.
You explore genres that you typically maybe don't watch or maybe you're not interested in, and then you end up creating something that, again, you never thought you would. And it's good practice.
I hope you get Western musical.
That actually would be fun.
Or silent musical.
Silent musical.
Silent musical,
Silent
that would
musical.
be interesting. That would be
I'm down.
rough.
I'm down with that.
You don't have to combine them, but I always think it's more fun to combine
It's definitely
the
fun to
genres.
combine them.
I didn't really notice that they did that this year, though, where they actually selected two. That's one thing that maybe Ron didn't do that has happened
I
years
think
past.
what it was basically was like you gotta either merge them, but one's gotta be more obvious than the other. So like we pulled mistaken identity, drama, so we tried to blend them as much as we could.
So you did pull two.
Yeah, you pulled two.
Okay.
but
I guess I didn't.
yeah.
I didn't notice that for some reason. I think it's because I was very intrigued by the whole Ron had this like DVD adventure where like he put like a
Yeah.
DVD in and it would
It was
show
very
you
cool.
what your genre selection was, which was pretty cool. But I think
Took
I was
some
just
time.
very intrigued
Yeah, that
by
was
that.
the only complaint I had about it. Like, we were sitting there and it took
did
like
take
2 minutes per team, and we're just like, what am I
Yeah.
gonna get?
You're
I need
like,
to go, you know?
this is
Okay.
now a
So,
38-hour film
Yep.
festival. I did. We did a little mini film fest for Broadway Bound Live,
Mhm.
and it was a 48. And they were kind of chiding me because I did talk for about 45 minutes. So they said it was a 47.25-hour film festival instead. And I was like,
Didn't adjust the end date in time.
we couldn't because like we're filming a live television show. Like this is housed within a reality TV show that is timed that has a live event. So our 48 was like literally, they turned it in. And an hour later, it's being screened.
Oh, wow.
So it was like insane.
That's pretty
And 2 of the films got turned in late. And so it was interesting and hilarious. And I mean, their lives literally are at stake. So it was like high stakes. There was only 4 teams. And they had 48 hours. And they came out with some really cool stuff though. And also there were some challenges in there.
It's incredible to see what people can throw together.
Get your creative juices
Yeah.
flowing.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were some really, like, in both, but especially in the Albuquerque one last year, there were some incredible films.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there always
Kairos,
are.
Lagrima,
Mm-hmm.
Space Age Daydream, was it called? There was an alien one. But so many
Yeah.
great ones. It was definitely a tight competition. But
Yeah, it always is. I do love
Yeah.
the filmmakers around town. All right, Benjamin.
Yes.
All right, so tell me a little bit about you. I want to hear about your journey as an artist.
So a few years ago, I kind of had a life-changing event, and I realized that I wanted to go back into my passion. When I was younger, I was an actor, and so I kind of readjusted everything about my life so that I could do film and writing, and I've focused pretty much on acting and honing myself as an actor and writing and filmmaking and making connections. So that's like my new, that was a big change in my life because I decided to fully commit. And so,
What were you doing before that?
so I'm a trained clinical psychologist,
Oh,
and
I'm gonna leave now.
and I took a hiatus
Mhm.
from training to do 48 and a few other things. I've worked in different fields,
Mhm.
and as I get older, the more I realize there's only so much time for other things. You should really, be happy with what you're making today. And I think film is one of the best ways to get a story out
Yeah.
of yourself and others, and it's a cooperative. I mean, people come together to get these stories out,
Right.
and it changes. I mean, a small thing can really change the trajectory of somebody's life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's really exciting. So you came out, participated in a 48, decided to make a big change. I mean, clinical psychology to that is very different. I actually went to school. I was gonna be a clinical psychologist as well. So I started off doing my my master's degree in clinical psychology, and I got to the practicum, the 900 hours that you have to basically pay to work for an entire year. But we did a 100-hour internship before that, and during that I just realized, like, I love the psychology aspect of it. Like, I mean, I would tear through my textbooks, and I was excited about how the brain works and all of that, and I just, and all the different ways that, behavior is dictated by, the skeletons in our closet, if you will, but, or lack thereof, but,
Going back
for
to the
other
horror
people,
stuff.
yeah. But when it came time to actually sit in a room with another person and actually be their therapist, like, I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would.
It's a good time to figure that out.
Mm-hmm. So coming up on the 900 hours of free work, where I'm actually paying to work, it's not even free work, I pay to work for a whole year. I just decided against it. So I changed my major. I had to start over. I got my master's degree in educational psychology instead. And so still love psychology, just decided to shift the focus and focus on education. And that's been really exciting. So I got to study motivational learn and some of those different sorts of things. So that was pretty cool. So, but I mean, I understand why. Huh?
Man of many talents.
That's right. All right, so it was just that, it was a 48. And so what have you been up to since?
I've taken multiple classes. I've been in about a dozen films in the last 2 years.
Nice.
And it's an adventure.
Yeah.
I enjoy storytelling as much, so I started writing and taking classes and written a few shorts and plan on filming one.
What is the coolest project that you've got to work on?
The coolest project, I would say that 48 is kind of like in your face. You've got to figure things out. You got to figure it out quickly. I've been on other large projects throughout the state, and the 48, you really get to the bones and grit of things. I think it's a fascinating way of filmmaking, and
Sure.
you see all the fluff kind of gone that you see from large productions. And obviously, you can't add all the things that a large production would have.
Yeah.
But you get to the bare bones of a story, and then you get your actors ready, and you get your storyline and props and everything that fits in together. That's really fun. I mean, there's a few things that I can't talk about, but they'll be coming out eventually.
Okay. You know, that's the life. That's the life of a filmmaker.
Lot of
Some really
secrecy.
great things. I can't tell you anything about them, but stay tuned. So, yeah, I feel that in my soul. All right, so you guys are actually working on a project together
are.
again.
Yes.
Not a 48, much longer, much
Much
longer.
bigger.
Multiple 48s.
Tell me about the project you're working on.
So it's a horror anthology film. It's called The Grey Witch Chronicles.
Weird that you're doing more horror. I feel like there may be
There's
some
something there.
skeletons.
There's
There's
something
something there.
I
The
got to
Grey
talk to a
Witch
shrink about
Chronicles.
this. Um,
Convenient.
But it's 4 interconnected short stories. We're very proud of what we've come up with. There's a writing team of 5 people, Candace Marie once again, Sean Kelly, Beck Albrecht, Yvonne Streaker, and myself. And so we wanted, after the 48, I met this incredible group of filmmakers, and I said, I want to do something big. I want to make something larger than I've ever done before, but also keep it in the same vein. So I was like, anthology, that's the way to go. And so I came up with this idea. I kept coming back to interconnected horror stories. And then very early on, after we got our writing team together, we got this brilliant idea to do a decade-spanning horror anthology. So each story set in a different decade.
Right.
And so I love the 80s, so I was like, okay, I'm taking that. My favorite movies and some of my favorite songs come from the 80s. So I was like, that would be so much fun to
It's
work
because
with.
you never lived there.
I never lived there, yeah, unfortunately. Born the wrong generation, right?
These children.
But,
I
I
mean,
was
I don't know
like,
anything about that. I'm obviously too young.
but I was like, that'd be so much fun. So Candace took a 90s era, and then Beck and Yvonne took the 60s, and then Sean took the 70s. And so I basically gave them a prerequisite. I was like, okay, it's got to have this character. I call him the gentleman.
Okay.
He's our centralized character. That's who he'll
Played
be playing.
by Benjamin
Played by the
A.
talented
Fuller.
Benjamin. And he's going to take the audience along almost like a third or a fourth wall break kind of thing, and
Okay.
show them each story. And so I thought it'd be really cool to have different
So
writers.
he's not necessarily in the story.
He is in the story.
He is, but he's not.
But
He's timeless and ageless, or
Yes.
does he have to shave and all the things?
So he's timeless, but we have talked about, each one's a different one. So he might show up with a beard in one, he might not.
Got it.
10 years time in between, a lot can happen. But I basically told the writing team, like, okay, you got to include him in some way, shape, or form. You got to stick to your time frame, and then do what you want. If you want him to have a large role, have a large role. If you want him to just kind of have like a little cameo in the background, as long as he's there. And so we all just started penning these ideas. We came up with a 60s psychological horror, a 70s noir story with Lovecraftian inspirations and stuff, which is a lot of fun. And then I came in, everyone was trying to keep it very grounded, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do aliens.
Of course,
And
you're back to
so,
the aliens.
back to the aliens.
I
I did
know.
this
You were
crazy-
just mad that you didn't get to do aliens last
Yeah,
time.
I think it was
So they let
I
you.
had to
They
do it,
said
yeah.
you could.
I was like, I
Okay.
have to do this. But and then we have our 90s one, which actually ended up being the most important one. It's it's a love story essentially, and it ties in, the gentleman's story ties in so nicely with the main character in that one.
Nice.
So yeah, we spent the past 5 months back and forth just writing drafts, and it took us 5 months to have a complete draft, because we wrote them separately and
Yeah.
then merged them together. But yeah, it's been incredible, and right now we have our funding campaign live, and we're really excited about it, and yeah, it's very unique, and we're very proud of it, so we can't wait to bring it to life.
That's exciting. My understanding is we have a little bit of a teaser trailer.
We do.
Cool. Let's go ahead and cut to that, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about it.
Perfect.
Exciting.
Halloween. No matter Over the millennia, I have watched this forsaken town. I have come to realize one thing about this particular night. It either encourages innocent fun, or for a select few, acts of greed and violence. This is where I come in. You see, it's my job to observe, to sort out the pure from the wicked, and if the time is right, to collect those who deserve punishment.
I have many interesting stories to share. If you're interested, you should come along. You might even enjoy yourself.
What an interesting concept. And I mean, you are just a gem, so I'm excited. Of course they picked you for this. This looks amazing. Okay, so what was the hardest part about writing this with multiple different writers?
Finding a way to have the story connect, but in like a meaningful way. Because we want the gentleman, without spoiling much, we want him to be, the audience will learn more about him as the film goes on, but you want to like almost root for him and like his goal, like what he's doing. He's going to collect the wicked people of this fictional town.
Oh.
And so
Oh
he's going to some very interesting stories and interacting with some very bad people. And so he's kind of like, the one who sorts them out. And it's very interesting how we wrote it. So he shows up and it doesn't feel like, oh, we just have to include him, so we're just going to throw him in.
It's kind of like a proper character line for the 48. I see what you did there.
Yeah,
you were like, hey,
yeah.
literally,
Required
this
elements,
character, it's a
yeah.
required element, has to be part of the plot, has to be
Yeah.
part of the fabric. It can't just be thrown in. Yeah.
And then we had those writers' rooms. They were like, we either had them in person or over Zoom at least twice, or like every other week, so like every 2 weekends. We'd do one, and it was basically like, hey, here's my new draft, and then we'd be like, okay, this is good, take that out. And we were really constructive in a lot of criticism, but in a good way. And I think it just really helped make each story really just stand on its own. But then when you put them together, they flow so nicely. And I'm incredibly proud of the team and what they wrote. So
That's exciting. All right, so obviously there's a funding campaign. What's your goal? What's the budget needed for this project?
We have two budgets. We have one we call the corner cut, which is like we can make the film, but we're going to have to cut elements of it out, but the story doesn't change. That's important to us, as long as the core story doesn't change. And that's a $40,000 funding goal. And then we have the complete funding goal, which is $60,000. That's like we can make the film in its entirety. We spent, probably 2-3 weeks just really finalizing that budget to make sure it's as accurate as we can get it. And that's just, complete vision, exactly how we want to make the film, all the locations we want, all the sets that we can build, and all the props we need to really bring it to life. But and we got some really exciting perks to anyone who contributes, production credits. We got this great poster, this really talented artist, Stephen Gilliam designed. We've got DVD copies of the film, and then we even have ways to be in the film, whether you're on set or you like send in a photo of yourself and you end up like set decoration. We got some really cool stuff.
That's awesome. So you guys are thinking that you might film it late June.
Late June would be, that's our goal right now.
Okay.
So, and the way we're doing it's going to be almost like shooting 4 short films, essentially. We're going to kind of break down production to each story. And that way we can give all the attention we need to the particular story. And it's also cool because we're going to have like a completely new cast, each time. I think we 29 days of principal photography. So like 7 per short, and then we got some stuff with Ben on that last 2 days actually.
So you guys are filming the entire month of July is what
we are breaking it up. So originally we're like, can we do that? Can we shoot a month straight? And then, our director of photography, Michael Ludwig, super talented guy, he works at Sandia. So film something like more on like a side hobby, like a passion hobby for him. But he can't just drop them with the work. So we're like, okay, we'll probably shoot them in like difficulty, like order of difficulty. So we're going to start with the easiest ones and work our way up to the hardest ones. It's going to be like a solid week of shooting one of the shorts or one of the stories, and then take a couple weeks break, set up for the next one. So collectively, about 29 days of principal photography, but it's not going to be 29 days straight. So
right, so you're going to start like late June, and then it'll roll into
next year most likely.
Got it.
So
awesome. All right, cool. Well, I am really excited about that. I know that our team is really excited about that too, and we would definitely like to contribute to your project.
Oh, thank you.
So we'll talk more about what we can do with that.
Great.
And for now, how can the people who are out there maybe contribute to this project?
So yeah, you can go on the Indiegogo page, just search the Grey Witch Chronicles on Indiegogo, and you can contribute. We have various dollar amounts that receive certain perks. You can just contribute if you don't want anything, and then the biggest thing that people can do is just sharing that link around. You know, just getting it out. Hey mom, hey dad, you know, hey grandma, or your neighbor, your best friend, anyone you know that likes film, especially horror. Just like, hey, share this link around, because the more eyes on it, just brings more attention to it, and in turn makes it just things flow a lot better. So
Well, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
All right, so is that link, do we have that link up already? Was that on your lower thirds?
I don't believe the funding link is up. but
Awesome. So if
the
you guys are
page on
looking for
my-
that,
Yeah.
we will make sure that you can find it on your page.
Yes, so on my Instagram, there's a link to it.
Awesome. And then
in
we'll
the
also
bio.
make sure that it's out in the email that goes out with the newsletter and all of that as well. So you guys have that. You guys can also check out the New Agenda on catharsismedia.org/newagenda, and you can find that information on there as well. So what's next for you guys? Obviously, this is a big undertaking. How do
Very big.
you prepare and reset for something like this?
Well, like I said, personal time. At least for me, that's important. Unwinding. I like to travel. I like to play guitar. I like do things outside of film, because it's very easy to get excited and be like, oh, well, I'm going to work on this project, but I also want to work on this project. So I think it's important to balance it, work and play, essentially. You know, really just take your time, and that's what I do. So I just get as much breathing room as I can, but I make sure it doesn't, you know, it's not too much, because I don't want to end up getting, you know, disconnected from the project, focusing too much time on other things, and then before I know it, a month's gone by and nothing's happened. So
Right.
that's for me personally.
The life of an actor is always looking for the next job. And so it's in between looking for things. I take time every day to write. And I've also picked up, or I'm trying to pick up, piano and guitar. I try to do those in banjo to try to give myself, my mind, something else to work on.
I think that's really great. So a variety of hobbies, traveling, personal sort of things.
Mhm.
I think for me, it's a number of things. I think it's, yes, all of those things, and also figuring out how to organize and how to prepare. So that's what you guys are talking about, is like the rejuvenating the body, the mind, the soul. How do you prepare? Like, what is your process to get ready? So like, now you've taken the time, like that's what I did on Saturday. I literally did nothing. I spent time with my kids. I took a very long nap. We had a Nerf war, and I ate a lot of food, and I did nothing. On Sunday, I got up in the morning and I started cleaning, because that's just what I did. So I cleaned all day on Sunday and just cleaned everything out. And then I sat down about 4 p.m, and I just started preparing. So I started writing out all of the things that need to happen, like all of the major goals, if you will, right? The most important things. And it's what I call my 6 most important things, but on a larger scale, right? So on a daily basis, I do what we call is the 6 most important things, which is like trying to accomplish what are the 6 most pivotal things that I can do today, the highest leverage things to get me closer to my goals tomorrow. But, you know, when I'm preparing for something new, it's like writing out the framework of what is the framework or the skeleton that has to exist? What are the pillars, if you will, that need to exist in order to hold up whatever it is that we're building, right? And then going down and like literally making lists. This is my process, right? I go down and I make lists and lists of what needs to happen in order for this to happen. My good friend Meredith, she's got her own podcast as well, and she has been a mentor of mine for like a very long time. But she always says, what has to be true in order for this to come about, right? And so I always ask myself, okay, what has to be true? And sometimes that's like looking at myself, like, what am I lacking? And what are the gaps that need to be filled in? What are the things that my team brings? And what are the gaps as well that need to be filled in? And then going from there and building in systems and processes to make sure that we're meeting all of those things. So that's kind of like the backwards planning, right? Like, what's the big goal? What are the pillars? What are the immediate needs that come with each of those pillars? The most obvious things, all the way down to like the tiny grains of sand, like what needs to be prepped and ready. And this is where my team they think I drive them crazy because they're just like, can you just stop obsessing? But I mean, it's important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and actually, no, I have a really great team. They're obsessive too, so it actually works out really well. But so, what are you guys doing now to support the goal of this big project and to bolster it? Like, how do you begin your process of beginning to build something big and huge? Like, this is big and huge, guys. A feature is
very
huge,
much.
especially the way that you guys have it built.
Mhm.
29 days of production is a lot.
Definitely. Deadlines. That's what really keeps me in check. Because originally we wanted to launch our campaign, I think the 1st of January. But I didn't set a deadline. I was like, it'd be cool to get it up then.
Mm-hmm.
But then we started like coming to that date and we're like, okay, it's not ready. We're going to submit it when it's ready. And so when we started going through really planning everything out, and then we said, okay, everything's got to be up by April 1st. That's our deadline. I think we ended up submitting the 2nd, but we still we set that deadline like 2 months in advance and we ended up hitting it. And so that was the same thing with our scripts. Hey, you got to have this draft done by this day. This is when we're meeting, make sure it's done. And yeah, that's for me just deadlines. That's what really helps. Because if you feel like there's a fire under you and you got to get it done, as long as you plan it out enough that it's not like you're forcing it or you're rushing it, as long as you got adequate time to really pull it off, I think those deadlines really help. And then once you complete those deadlines, once you've reached your goal, you feel good about it. And then you're like, cool, I'm done. Now I can take a break. Now I can do something. Now I can reset. And then, get ready for that next deadline that's coming up. So I think that really helps. At least personally, that does for me. So.
Yeah.
I live by like 3 calendars. And then,
That seems complicated.
yeah, so my calendars, I know when I'm doing something and when I need to be working on something else. And I'm a big list person.
Yeah.
I like making lists with check boxes, and then I
Yeah.
check them off. And then I have a scrum, which is, it's like a rugby term where you come together and you figure out what you're doing, what's your big plan.
Okay.
And so you know what your 6-month goal is,
Mm-hmm.
and then all the things you need to do in order to get to that.
To break that down into even like weekly and then daily goals.
And then I put everything in calendars, and then I look at the calendar so I know exactly what I'm doing this week, what I need to prep for. And then
Yeah. My favorite thing in the world is time blocking, which starts with kind of, that idea of, the big goals, breaking them down into everything that needs to get done, this month, this week, today, and then within that of like literally all of the tasks. I can't just say, put up an Indiegogo campaign, right? I mean, we're talking about, filming the video, editing the video, figuring out the perks, writing the copy, all of every single one of those tasks broken down to literally like what needs to be every step of the way, right? And then we time block that. And so we take that and we put it we actually have a task list for our team. And so every team member has their own task list, and we time block it into there, or we task list it into there, and then they time block it into their schedules according to their available time. So that's how we move forward as a company when we're being our most efficient versions of ourselves. What do you guys do when you find that you're not being the most, like, these are all great ideals. Let's be honest. Like, there are days, I mean, that's honestly, like, we had to, like, do a whole reset. Like, I needed to reset because I knew that it was beginning to snowball, right? Like, when we get off track and it's like, you miss the deadline, right? Or you miss the whatever, and you start to kind of,
It just all falls apart.
and it just kind of, it snowballs, and that problem gets bigger and bigger, and more things are getting left out. When do you say it's time to pause and to unpack that snowball a little bit?
I feel like that's a good question, really. I feel like it's when you feel overwhelmed. I think that's when you have to stand back and be like, take pieces out of it, You got this giant problem. It's made up of 10 different problems, and you look at it and you say, okay, I got to unravel this, or it's just going to keep getting bigger.
Yeah.
So I personally try to find, like, the biggest one. The one that's kind of, the biggest problem may be like, okay, why can't we reach this deadline? What's the main cause of this? Find a way to ratify that one. And then I feel like once you do that, it's a lot easier to pick up the smaller ones. So And then also, yeah, filmmaking is not a independent thing. It's a team building effort. You know, you can't do it all yourself. And I feel like if you try to do it all yourself, you just overwhelm yourself.
Yeah.
So, you know, having people to help out, that's been big. So I feel like, yeah, taking your pride and putting it away and like saying, okay, I need help.
Yeah.
Accepting you need help. That makes all the difference, I really feel. So.
I have found that inspiration doesn't hit you and then you start doing things. You have to start doing things and then inspiration will hit you. So sometimes it's easier to write something and then edit it later than to never write it, expecting it to be perfect. And so every day I kind of think of it like a shark. If you're not moving forward, you're dying. So if we're not going forward with whatever motion, even if it's a small, an inch in one direction, then I need to reevaluate, and I take the whole process to learn something every day. So
Well, and I think that kind of what you said, it's like, you know, life has a certain current to it, right? And if there is no staying in the same spot, if you're not swimming against that current towards your goals, the current flows in the easiest path, right? Which unfortunately is not the most effective path, right? It doesn't get us where we want to go. Often our dreams are against the current, you know? And so it's very normal in our society, and kind of your average person, you know, if you go with the flow, that flow is kind of mediocre. And that's like, I don't like want to ever like make anyone feel a certain way or feel bad or feel like less than or anything like that for having, you know, like for wanting like an I don't want to say an easy life, but you know, a normal, I think normal is the word I'm looking for, a normal life. Average sounds mean, but normal, you know. But I think that for those of us who feel especially, you know, called to kind of big and ambitious goals, it is always a swimming against the current. You know, I mean, that ambition itself is a little bit abnormal, you know, and so if you want to live an extraordinary life, you have to have extraordinary practices, right? You have to have extraordinary motivation and extraordinary day-to-day moments. You can't just be like, and my life was great and extraordinary, because it's a daily choice, right? And so I love the idea of that idea that you said, like, that if you're not doing something, it's pulling you away. You're going to be taken away by that current, which is probably not in the way that you want it to go. And so I think that, you know, being super intentional is good. But what do you do when you find that you've, you know, been taken by the current?
I find the best thing to do is to forgive myself for not being the go-getter I wish I was. And the same thing driving down the road. If somebody's driving the Albuquerque driving way,
we all know what that means.
maybe they really need to go somewhere. Be able to forgive them. Be appreciative of what you have, knowing that you can forgive yourself and forgive them. And as long as we get to the end journey safe, I mean, that's a success. And hopefully somebody doesn't take that into their own hands. And I mean, I'm sure we've all seen some terrible things on the road. But forgiving ourselves for not getting everything we need done, or forgiving the people around us for not giving everything that we think they should, because we're only human.
What a timely sort of comment. I don't know if comment is the right, but rhetoric. What does it mean? How do you forgive? What does it mean to forgive yourself, and how, or to forgive anyone, and how? What's a process to go through to do it?
Realize that there is no such thing as perfection, and that the journey in life, making a film is fantastic, having an end product, but once that product is out, people will judge it and look at it and do whatever they want with it. But as long as we're putting what we can at every moment that we can put into it, then our journey is more than the destination. And so it's the totality of the whole organization. It's very gestalt, like we're more than the sum of our parts.
Right.
And therefore, making the film is not only about, you know, having the Grey Witch Chronicles finished,
Right.
but, you know, working with John and Candace and Becca and Yvonne. I mean, having everybody come together so that we can do other things later. And then we're all on our own separate projects and our own separate journeys. And I think if I ask for something and I don't get the immediate response, I've got to be able to forgive him, knowing that he's busy too.
Right.
The world doesn't revolve around me.
So giving maybe that space for people to be human, accepting that we are human, that we're not always going to be perfect, and that that's okay, and then readjusting, recalibrating, right? It's like, you know, I think that one of the hardest parts about forgiveness is that we don't always recalibrate or readjust, right? So we never get there. So then we live with regret, and that makes it hard to forgive because you didn't reconcile what was the problem in the first place, right? Whether it was, you know, there was a blow up and maybe there was, you know, something that actually needed to be reconciled, or just the issue wasn't resolved. And when we don't have a resolution and a way to move forward or to recalibrate, I feel like that's actually where a lot of the times it's harder to forgive. It's not just about the acceptance of the flaw or of the mistake or whatever, or of the dropped ball or whatever it is, but it's also about figuring out what is the way forward and allowing there to be a way forward, which also means letting go, right? Because otherwise it's like, well, I don't want to, you know, we want to cut things off, or but that builds that sort of resentment, which doesn't allow us to move forward. And so I think a lot of times it is that moving forward.
Regret is unprofessional.
Well, but even in our personal lives, like, I mean, you know, we're talking about things that aren't just related to making a film.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, we're talking about how do we as humans move forward in our, I mean, how do I forgive myself? I mean, these are my dreams, right? Like, when I fail to meet them, or fail to meet a deadline, or fail to, you know, set aside that time for my children, you know, when, you know, and I fail to recognize that I've done it, it's not, you know, it's me that I'm hurting, and the people that are impacted by it, of course. And so, unprofessional or otherwise, it's beyond that. You know, we're at a place of learning to accept and see our own limitations, our own flaws, asking for help, acknowledging that we can't do it by ourselves, and figuring out what are the things that led to this, and how do we keep that from happening again? How do we move forward? How do we let go? How do we allow there to be healing? It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to forgive people in the sense that they can come back in. Sometimes we do have to pause and say, this is not a relationship that's going to work. Sometimes there are things that break, or a habit I can't keep doing, right? So sometimes there are things that we need to take out, and often that is also part of that process of forgiveness. It is seeing and acknowledging the things that should be, the things that can't be, and then looking towards how do we move forward and taking that path and building a bridge towards that path. So
I feel like it puts you on one of two paths. Either you fail and you accept it and you don't do anything and you just continue to fail and fall back, or you know, when life kicks you down, if you get back up and you push back, it might not be success right away.
Right.
But persistence is key, and if you keep going, eventually you'll find success. Whether it's what your end goal completely, or it's just part of it, you're still going to reach some kind of success. And I feel like that's the important part. You either fall on trail 1 where you don't do anything, or trail 2 where you fight back until you reach your goal. And
yeah,
I think that's important.
I think that's great. Well, thank you guys. This has been a really awesome conversation today.
Definitely.
And I'm just so honored to look into your guys' project more and see it come to life, and all the things along the way. So thanks for coming out and sharing with me. That's about all the time we have for today. I think it's time for a new agenda.